It's 8 days to the kickoff, and NTV, being the home of the 2018 World Cup, will be showing at least 32 matches live and free.
Well, we are the FIFA licensed free-to-air broadcasters. Stay tuned to NTV, as Mark said, and enjoy the World Cup right from where you are.
For now, it's time to kick off the news of the day.
This in itself is a compelling reason why bail should be and is hereby denied.
NYS comes suspects to stay locked up until their cases are concluded as court denies them bail.
As far as we are concerned, we follow the due process of the law, and no money has been lost by Kenya Pipeline Company.
Kenya Pipeline CEO denies loss of money at firm, even as EACC confirms probe on possible theft at oil parastatal.
EACC hands RUARAKA land scandal file to DPP, recommending 24 people for prosecution on questionable payment of 3.2 billion shillings.
The current board of management of Moi Girls School, Nairobi, is dissolved with immediate effect. I have today received a request for early retirement from the principal of Moi Girls School, Nairobi, Mrs. Jael Moravi. The TSC has accepted the request.
Moi Girls School Nairobi's board and principal out of office, even as police demolish kiosks near institution.
NTV Tonight with Gladys Gachanja and Mark Masai.
Thank you for making time. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno.
And we take off with our first story, and this is just in a Nairobi-bound plane that had 8 passengers, it is believed, on board, has been listed as missing and is feared as having crashed early this evening.
There are conflicting reports of the number of people on board the plane. According to Trans Nzoia County Commissioner Erastus Mbui, the plane had dropped people in Kitale and took off for the return trip to Nairobi.
It, however, went off radar and is listed as missing. Details as we receive it will get to you.
NYS comes suspects led by Principal Secretary for Youth and Gender Affairs Lilian Omolo and NYS Director General Richard Ndubai are set to face lengthy spells in remand prison after being denied bail.
The Anti-Corruption Court also directed that the cases commence immediately through pre-trial conferences scheduled on Wednesday at various courts in the capital.
NTV's Seth Olale attended the bail ruling at Milimani Law Courts and filed this report.
43 NYS scandal suspects led by Director General Richard Ndubai arriving for their bail determination at the Anti-Corruption Court in Milimani. However, the session was momentarily halted after the prosecution notified the Chief Magistrate that there were 3 suspects in court who had not taken plea. They were ordered out of the court and arrested by police and will be charged separately from the rest.
The economic offense having deep-rooted conspiracies and involving huge loss of public funds needs to be viewed seriously and considered as grave offenses affecting the economy of the country as a whole, and therefore posing serious threats to the financial health of the country and, in the court's opinion, which can lead to anarchy, threat to peace, and a threat to national security, and hence also cases of great national interest.
When the bail ruling proceedings resumed, a roll call of the 43 suspects implicated in each of the 10 cases was taken, with the state prosecution led by Senior Assistant Director of Public Prosecution Emily Kamau, and the defense also acknowledging their presence before Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti. Ogoti ruled that the charges the 43 suspects are facing are serious and a compelling reason to deny them bail. The magistrate added that it would be discriminatory to grant the accused persons bail given that they face similar charges but have different ranks and financial capacity to pay any cash bail that would have been granted.
A disregard for the interest of the community can be manifested only at the cost of forfeiting the trust and faith of the community in the system administering justice in an even-handed manner without fear of criticism from quarters which view white-collar crimes with a permissive eye and mindful of the damage done to the national economy and national interest.
The Chief Magistrate added that economic crime is well designed and intended, a calculated scheme for individual profit, unlike murder or robbery with violence. The Anti-Corruption Chief Magistrate added that such crimes might lead to anarchy and are a threat to national security.
It is their people who have taken her to Kenyatta Hospital. If we had a chance, she would be hospitalized in a better hospital, in a better facility.
Disgruntled lawyers representing the suspects termed the ruling harsh and asked for a copy of the ruling to enable them appeal against the decision, while accusing the prosecution of malice in its agenda. The ruling means that the suspects, who include the highest and lowest ranked officials at NYS, ranging from technicians and clerks to top managers, will spend lengthy spells in remand prison over their involvement in the theft of 468 million shillings from NYS. The bail ruling shocked relatives and friends of the suspects, who were loaded with cash, anticipating the release of the accused on bail. It's another round of detention for NYS scam suspects, who will remain in remand even as trial commences tomorrow at various courts in the country. This is also seen as a winning step for the prosecution. Seth Olale, NTV, Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi.
On to another case. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is probing the possible loss of billions of shillings at the Kenya Pipeline Company, even as the firm's managing director, Joe Sang, maintains a studious denial on whether the parastatal has lost any money to corruption. Sang
addressed the media with a heavy cloud hanging over the company he leads, which handles billions of shillings to oversee the use of oil pipelines nationwide. Alex Mwangi with more.
As far as we are concerned, we follow the due process of the law, and no money has been lost by Kenya Pipeline Company.
That was part of the defense by the Kenya Pipeline Company's managing director before the public, as he sought to allay fears that the parastatal has become the next minting press for corrupt public officials out to make a kill.
The performance we did last year is a profit before tax of 11.5 billion shillings. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not a company that's been mismanaged. That is not a company that has swindled 95 billion shillings.
Now, in my time here, I have had the privilege of conducting 23 public procurement cases on behalf of KPC, of which we have won 21. Now, that actually points to our attempts and success in complying with public procurement regulations insofar as public procurement is concerned.
The KPC MD did give some information on 3 individuals who have been sent on leave for alleged malpractice.
It's true that we got such warrants from EACC about 10 days ago, where they searched their offices and their homes. The officers have proceeded on leave to allow for this investigation to be conducted by EACC.
The 3, Samuel Odoyo, Nicholas Gatobu and Francis Juma, are suspected of contravening tendering procedures in the 600 million shilling hydrant valves deal for use at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport.
We wrote to EACC to actually give us more information about the reason why the search warrants were done on these 3 individuals. And we wrote to them last week on Thursday, just before the holiday. And I did a follow-up yesterday, and we are waiting for the feedback from EACC.
Then came the matter of Line 5, the new pipeline which is 99.9% complete according to the MD, but whose commissioning date is yet to be ascertained after years of delay. The main contractor, Zakim International, was seeking 18.9 billion shillings cumulatively as the cost of 4 extension of time delays. But a third party that KPC engaged contracted the figure to 4.4 billion shillings.
We wrote to our cabinet secretary about this extension of time determination by the third party, and we are waiting the feedback from our cabinet secretary, who is also in consultation with our presidency because of the public interest in this matter. And I'd like to confirm that we've not paid any single coin of taxpayers' money in extension of time claim.
Sang also gave a breakdown of how 653.8 million shillings was spent to purchase a 2-acre parcel of land adjacent to KPC's headquarters.
All payments were made directly to the seller. In terms of the purchase price of 545, stamp duty 4%, 21.8, VAT at 16% is 87 million, to give you a total sum of 653.8 million.
With pressure to fight graft having escalated to such an extent that senior government officials in accounting and procurement have been compelled to step aside, going forward, there will be heightened scrutiny of operations here at KPC from both the public and investigative arms, even as we await the conclusion of investigations by the EACC. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Elsewhere, 24 individuals, among them senior government officials, are likely to face prosecution over the 3.2 billion shilling RUARAKA land scam.
The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has confirmed receiving the investigation file on the controversial land sale. NTV's Nimrod Tabu with the details.
EACC officials have been investigating the sale of the land after it was disclosed in Parliament that the government had paid in part a 3 billion shillings amount to own the land, which it was later claimed was already owned by the government. Sources at EACC indicate that a businessman at the heart of the land controversy has rushed to court to seek anticipatory bail as it becomes apparent that a legal case is inevitable. The anti-graft body wants 24 suspects, who include senior government officials and entrepreneurs, prosecuted over the scandal. Lands Cabinet Secretary Farida Karonei faulted her colleague Fred Matiang'i's and the National Land Commission Chairman Mohamed Swazuri's decision to approve a payment made as compensation for 2 schools that stand on the land. This was after it was revealed that on March 17th last year, Matiang'i, then Education CS, authorized the NLC to acquire the 13.5-acre piece of land in RUARAKA for the 2 schools, RUARAKA High School and Drive-In Primary School. From Karonei's submissions before the National Assembly's Lands Committee, it is unclear whether RUARAKA High School and Drive-In Primary School acquired the parcels of land they sit on. Karonei told Parliament that the allotment later issued to the schools 34 years ago was irregular. MPs were also told that the former Attorney General Githu Muigai advised the Ministry of Lands to start processing payment for the land. The acquisition included paying 3.3 billion shillings to Afrison Exports and Imports Limited and Hulands Limited, 2 companies owned by businessman Francis Mburu. In 1984, Mburu, who owned Drive-In Estate Developers, had applied to the Ministry of Lands to be allowed to construct a secondary school on the parcel, which was being subdivided. Mburu's 2 other companies, Afrison and Hulands, claimed to have bought the piece of land 3 years earlier in 1981 from Joreth Company. The 2 then transferred ownership to a 3rd company, Whispering Palm Estate Limited, also owned by Mburu and his 2 brothers, Mark and Justin Mburu. NTV is not privy to the list of names forwarded to the DPP by the EACC, but whether the 24 individuals the EACC wants prosecuted will face the law or not remains to be seen. With the EACC's and the DPP's in tray full, the fight against corruption appears to be intensifying, with sources at the anti-graft body confirming ongoing investigations into the NCPB and the Kenya Power scandals. Nimrod Tabu, NTV.
It is emerging that some heads of procurement and accounting in ministries, departments and agencies, including state corporations, are not going to be that cooperative.
They may be unwilling to submit to the detailed vetting process the executive is taking for some public servants as ordered by President Uhuru Kenyatta. NTV's Mel Miendo with the details.
According to government sources, the details required from the heads of procurement and accounting units are meant to help the government with its focus now on auditing the lifestyles of these officers. A leaked circular written by Head of Public Service Joseph Kenywa states in detail the information that the public officers must present to Harambee House in sealed envelopes. To begin with is personal particulars in the form of names, ID card numbers, PIN registration, driving licenses, mobile cell phone numbers and daytime telephone numbers, as well as email addresses. In addition is the residential addresses of the officers and their spouses for the last 5 years. This must be inclusive of the ownership status of current residents. Also required is power and water meter numbers and any other utility account numbers. The officer must state his or her current posting, personal number, job group, list of previous deployments and number of years served per deployment. The targeted officers have to also submit their history of disciplinary cases, promotions applied for and promotions received. They're also expected to present full names and ID card numbers of immediate family members, spouse, children, siblings, parents, as well as business associates, agents or associations where the officer has a direct or indirect monetary interest. More information includes list of known companies, businesses owned or controlled by the officer or immediate family members that have had commercial dealings with the MDAs, ministries, departments and agencies for which the officer is deployed. Furthermore, the officers must present a list of known movable and immovable assets owned or partly owned by the officer or the immediate family members, business associates or agents, including data on acreage, location and status, whether charged to a financial institution, joint ownership, allotment and the like, including dates of acquisition. Machinery, vehicles and other assets where the officer has beneficial interest, stocks, shares and partnerships, including investment groups of which the officer and spouse are members, certified copies of bank statements of the officer and spouse for the last 6 months, including any foreign accounts, certified copies of mobile money statements of the officer and spouse for the last 6 months, KRA income tax returns for the officer and the officer's companies and or businesses for the last 3 years, club memberships, social media accounts or handles, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and a list of liabilities including loans, mortgages, school fees and school accounts, cumulative insurance policies, and holidays. The deadline of submitting this information is Friday, June 8th. If the officers will not have done so, it will be deemed that they have quit. However, quitting or not, the government may decide to take matters into legal action, something that the officers may have to think about seriously. The leaked circular from Public Service dated 4th June directed all heads of procurement and accounting units in ministries, departments, agencies and state corporations to step aside with immediate effect and hand over to their deputies before they vacate office. The officers will begin a 30-day compulsory leave tomorrow, 6th June, and are not allowed to leave the country until the vetting process is over. Mel Miendo, NTV.
U.S. Ambassador Robert Godek today said corruption has become a severe epidemic that has slowed economic growth in Kenya. Godek says every person has an obligation to fight graft at every level, both in the counties and the national government.
Godek has urged, Godek has urged leaders in the national and county governments to play a critical role in fighting corruption and stop it once and for all. He spoke during the launch of a third HIV population-based survey in Nairobi.
The corruption in Kenya must end. The only solution to the problem is zero tolerance. I want to welcome the words and the actions of President Kenyatta, the recent prosecutions that have been launched by the DPP. And when you take money from medical care or you take it from other government services and give it corruptly, or it's taken corruptly by people, that denies the treatment and the services that Kenyans need. So further strong and sustained steps are needed by everyone, by the government, by citizens, in order to end this epidemic of corruption.
That wasn't the only platform this was being spoken of. Parliament resumed its sittings this afternoon after a 1-month recess.
The need to boost food security and fight runaway corruption ailing the Jubilee administration dominated the debate by members of the National Assembly.
Members of the Senate used their first session to deliberate and establish a select committee to investigate the Solai Dam tragedy.
After a 1-month-long recess, members of Parliament resumed their sitting sessions in the chambers. National Assembly members debated President Uhuru Kenyatta's address to the nation that was delivered on May 2nd, calling on the president to intensify his fight against runaway corruption ailing his administration.
In my view, the best approach that he needs to employ urgently is to appoint an anti-corruption czar in his office. Because what we have seen is that small fishes are being arraigned in court.
NYS is being used like an ATM. We saw Kafura as a is going away with millions. We are seeing other people going away with billions. Madam Speaker, things should not be the same.
As both members of the National Assembly and the Senate embark on their duties, Parliament is being banked on to push for political culpability in the war on corruption, as criminal liability lies with the Directorate of Investigation and Public Prosecution.
The President has indicated very clearly that he is not having confidence in Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. And I think he shares that feeling with many of us. This commission we call Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has let down Kenyans big time.
We are tired of situations where we celebrate because public officers resign once this theft has happened. Because even if someone resigns 10 or 50 times, the fact remains that that public money has been lost. That as a country we want to celebrate, not because people have been sent to jail, but because this money is back to the hands of Kenyans.
Topping House business agenda this month will be debating, deliberating and considering the report of the Budget and Appropriation Committee on budget estimates ahead of the start of the 2018-2019 financial year.
Unless we are food sufficient in our country, then the kind of development that we want to achieve, particularly in the various sectors, we cannot be able to do so when our people are still depending on relief food.
Members of the Senate deliberated on and established a select committee to investigate what led the Solai Dam tragedy that claimed 47 lives. The select committee is expected to table its report on the floor of the House within 60 days after its establishment. Vincent Odur, NTV.
6 stories later, still on the conversation about corruption, what sentence befits those who are found guilty of corruption? That's the question we're asking you today.
Share your feedback on SMS number 20688. You can also tweet us on @NTV Kenya or @Gladys_Gachanja or @Mark Masai, and we'll be sampling your feedback at the end of this broadcast.
Remember that question of the day again: what sentence befits those who are found guilty of corruption?
Yes, and you've seen there the number to share your feedback on via SMS 20688 or our handle @NTV Kenya via Twitter. With 20 minutes past the hour, NTV Tonight takes our first break. We'll be back with more.
Thank you for staying with us. The Ministry of Education has announced the early retirement of a Moi Girls High School principal after last Friday's rape incident. Florence Omusula will assume office in acting capacity.
Meanwhile, hundreds of people have been rendered jobless following the demolition of structures adjacent to the school. NTV's Charity Mwangi with the details.
Drama in Kibra this morning. Makeshift structures adjacent to Moi Girls High School were being brought down in order to heighten the security of the school. Business owners had very little time to salvage their goods. The operation comes 3 days after an alleged rape incident at the school. Aggrieved business operators expressed opposition to the demolition as they maintained that their presence in the area had improved the security.
Sisi wenyewe wengine ni mariformed. Tunakatazwa kuibiana, tunakatazwa kufanya violence. Na at the end of the day wanakama wanabomoa vitu zetu.
Kesho wakipata hiyo issue iko huko ndani, watatulifund aje? Watatufanyia vijana wetu aje?
And at the Ministry of Education, Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed, flanked by Teachers Service Commission CEO Nancy Masharia and other top officials at the ministry, spelled out changes that have been necessitated by the weekend incident.
The current board of management of Moi Girls School, Nairobi, is dissolved with immediate effect. An interim BOM comprising officials of the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Service Commission will be put in place immediately to oversee the management of the school until a substantive board is constituted. The Parents Association membership of the school is dissolved as well. All parents of the school are advised to assemble at the institution on Thursday, the 7th of June at 10:30 a.m. 2018 to conduct fresh elections of new official representatives.
I have today received a request for early retirement from the principal of Moi Girls School, Nairobi, Mrs. Jael Mureithi. The TSC has accepted the request. Notwithstanding the early retirement, investigations will still continue and action will be taken thereafter.
They also informed stakeholders in the education sector of new policies that will guide the non-curricular activities.
I direct that from today, trainers and coaches in all our public schools must be teachers registered with the TSC. Entertainment in schools must be properly supervised and monitored, and this must be done also by teachers.
The Ministry of Education has laid out a plan to ensure that our schools are safe. Questions arise whether or not consultations were made prior, if they will face confrontation from stakeholders, and if these measures are enough to ensure that such cases are not repeated. This comes at a time when other similar incidences are being reported at different learning institutions in the country. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
4 people perished in a road accident and more than 10 others were injured at Kariene along the MERU-Nairobi highway this afternoon. The accident involved a lorry and public service vehicle which was heading to Nairobi.
According to Meru County Police boss, that is David Kirui, the accident happened a few minutes before 2 p.m. at Kariene in South Imenti constituency. The police added that 2 men and 2 women died, one a mother of a child that survived the accident.
The 7 injured occupants of the vehicles were rushed to the Meru Teaching and Referral Hospital, while some were taken to a health center at Kariene. The police could not immediately establish the cause of the accident.
Health matters now. The Ministry of Health today launched the 3rd population-based HIV survey dubbed Kenya Population-Based HIV Impact Assessment. Now, the survey will look at the state of HIV epidemic, care and treatment in Kenya.
Data collected will provide the Ministry of Health with information to improve the quality of HIV treatment and other services so that Kenya can move towards a HIV-free generation. NTV's Rose Wangoi with the details.
The Ministry of Health has embarked on a nationwide survey to assess how many people are currently infected with HIV, new infections, and those on treatment. The survey, dubbed Kenya Population-Based HIV Impact Assessment, will involve 36 randomly selected individuals across the 47 counties with a view to providing data that will inform programs and resources for the people most in need.
90% of all people living with HIV aware of their status. 90% of all people with diagnosed HIV on treatment, and 90% of people on treatment attaining viral suppression by 2020.
But as we do the survey, we want to find out, have things changed? Are they the same? What has happened in each counties?
The survey is unique because it will look at county by county status, unlike the previous surveys that were region-based. It will also involve door-to-door visits across 47 counties where participants will get free counseling and testing for HIV.
We will also do syphilis and we'll do hepatitis. This is a process that is voluntary. No one is going to be forced to do it, but we are going to talk with the households and with the individuals.
We are launching system right now. The nutritional status of pregnant women and children will also be assessed. According to the 2012 report by National AIDS and STI Control Program, NASCOP, HIV prevalence stood at 5.6%, which translates to 1.5 million people who are infected. The program, which will take about 6 months plus 3 more months for data representation, is estimated to cost 1.5 to 2 billion shillings. The survey will provide the Ministry of Health with information to improve the quality of HIV treatment and other services so that Kenya can move towards an HIV-free generation. Rozongoi, NTV.
Time for another short break right here on NTV Tonight. Dan Mwangi is next with the business news.
Mama Mturi anayo haki ya kuweza kurudi.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. I'm Dan Mwangi. Now, confusion has rocked the Kenya Ports Authority over the fate of tomorrow's planned installment of the new managing director, that's Daniel Manduku. This is after the Mombasa High Court issued orders blocking the suspension of managing director Catherine Mturi Wairi, who was ousted last week. This comes as activist Okiya Omtata filed a petition in a separate court in support of Catherine, saying the decision to send her on compulsory leave was unconstitutional. Peter Mwangangi reports on the latest intrigues at the port of Mombasa.
The battle for control of the top leadership of the giant parastatal that handles volumes of cargo for several East African countries saw two cases separately filed in court. At the Mombasa High Court, Justice Eric Ogolla this evening issued temporary orders suspending the implementation of the decision by the KPA Board of Directors to send Catherine Mturi Wairi on compulsory leave, the subsequent appointment of Dr. Daniel Manduku as the acting MD.
Kwa hivyo Mama Mturi anayo haki ya kuweza kurudi kazini na kuendelea hadi pale mahakama itakavyoamua kesi hii.
Earlier today at the Employment and Labor Relations Court, activist Okiya Omtata filed a petition in which he said the purported changes in the office of the MD are null and void because they were made by a board that lacked quorum, claiming it was infiltrated by strangers. Omtata told Justice James Rika that only 3 out of 11 board members attended the special board meeting. He said the board has no substantive chairman following the lapse of the term of Mazen Madoka on April 15th. Omtata further claimed that the MD was never given an opportunity to respond, contrary to the constitution. Justice Rika will deliver a ruling on Thursday on whether to grant the conservatory orders sought.
So out of 11, having only 3 people, my lord, does not qualify for a quorum. And therefore, in law, there was no special meeting that was held, and its decisions cannot stand.
This evening, the KPA media team invited the press to cover the handing over ceremony for the new managing director at 9 a.m. Wednesday. It remains to be seen whether this will happen. Peter Mwangangi, NTV, Mombasa.
Police have seized over 2,000 bags of contraband sugar in a warehouse in Eastleigh, Nairobi. The brown sugar was 50 kilo bags labeled as unfit for human consumption. Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet has said 3 suspects are currently held in police custody in connection with the contraband consignment. NTV Steve Juma reports.
The truckloads of counterfeit goods that are just but a fraction of the totality of illicit trade that is alive in the country. This consignment of brown sugar, allegedly imported from Brazil, was traced by the detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to a warehouse in Eastleigh, Section 3, after tip-off from members of the public. Also impounded were cans of cooking oil, equally labeled as unfit for consumption. Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet says there were no documents attached to these goods, making it difficult to establish the point of entry.
Nobody is going to be allowed to allow this kind of thing to pass. You allow it to pass, you will bear to account.
It's alleged that the brown sugar was intended for transport to the Mumias and Cabral sugar factories, but ended up in the hands of unscrupulous traders who have been selling it to unsuspecting customers.
We have to be very sure that what we are buying has a label, because most of these things don't have.
A special team of police has been formed to deal with illicit trade in specific areas and get rid of substandard goods in the Kenyan market.
Each one of them will stand alone and say, this is what I saw, this is what I did, because they all agree. Wao wanapitisha. Mtu wa KEBS anaangalia mambo yake, the standards. Mtu wa customs anaangalia. Mtu wa anti-counterfeit anaangalia. So the question would be, uliangalia hii? Kila mtu asema aliangalia yake.
For the last few days, the Kenya Revenue Authority and the Kenya Bureau of Standards have confiscated and destroyed goods worth millions for being substandard. The Inspector General of Police has issued a stern warning against public officers along the borders who are compromised to allow contrabands and counterfeit goods into the country. Steve Juma, NTV at Directorate of Criminal Investigation.
Kenya is set to officially begin national performance trials on genetically modified cotton next week. This is after the National Environment Management Authority, that's NEMA, approved the trials. The tests will be conducted in 5 counties, and as Zena Bondati reports, cotton farmers will be able to access the genetically modified seeds next year if the tests go well.
Kenya is not among the world's biggest producers of cotton, and neither is it among Africa's top producers. And that is because of one thing: the cost of production. Farmers here say that the cost of production here is so high because they have to do up to 12 sprays per cycle in order to get a crop, which is very expensive. But now scientists are proposing that farmers adopt a genetically modified cotton variety, which promises to cut down significantly the cost of production because the numbers of spray will have been reduced from 12 to just 3.
Bila madawa huwezi kuvuna pamba. Wacha hivi saibu iko early stage, lakini kuna wakati za kutoa balls, kunao balls wale wadudu wengi sana wanaathiri wakati.
We are testing the BT cotton seeds. The plantation of that testing program is going on.
Research into genetically modified cotton started in 2001, and in 2014 the confined field trial started in Mwea. The approval from the National Environment Management Authority allows the scientists to scale up research and carry out national performance trials, the final step before genetically modified cotton is made available to farmers. The tests will be conducted in Mwea, Buratana, Katumani, Kambiamawe and Pakera. These BT cotton seeds are said to be superior hybrids that will not only protect the farmers against the bollworm pest, but also increase their yield significantly.
Bollworm waliponiathiri kwa mwaka mwanzo, eka moja nilikuwa natarajia nivune kilo 800, lakini sikuvuna kilo 800, nimevuna kilo 400. Kwa hivyo ni kama mbegu
At the moment, Kenya has only 2 cotton varieties, KSA 81M and HAT 89M, bred back in the 1980s. The Ministry of Trade and Industry says it is working on a plan to scale up production and revive the cotton sector, which not only includes adopting GMO varieties, but also recruiting at least 600,000 farmers across the country into cotton farming.
Today we have less than 30,000 acres of land under cotton production in Kenya. We want to increase that acreage under cotton production to more than 200 hectares in the next 5 years.
Kenya produces medium staple cotton that is suitable for spinning, but the low annual production of only 25,000 bales has forced apparel makers like Rivertex to import from neighboring Uganda and Tanzania. But as Kenya prepares to adopt BT cotton, there are concerns that the country might find itself in the same predicament as Burkina Faso, which adopted and later regretted it. The West African nation, which is Africa's top cotton grower, went BT in 2008, adopting the Bolgard 2 variety from Monsanto. The country claimed that although production increased, the quality of its cotton dropped as a result, causing it to lose its premium status on the global market, and then proceeded to sue Monsanto for $84 million as compensation. Kenyan scientists, however, say that the problem with Burkina Faso was not the BT technology, but the Burkinabe cotton itself.
Genetic engineering do not affect the quality of cotton. The only way probably we can say it affects quality is that you get better quality in a sense of cleanliness of the cotton because there are no pests. Burkina Faso went for their own varieties to be transformed, and they were transformed. What they gave is what they got. They gave varieties that were not very good. They put the gene in these varieties, and then they found out at the end of the day that they were not suitable varieties. For us, we are not transforming our varieties.
Wajua kitu ambacho hujakiona unaweza kukufurahikia ukione, lakini kikija kwako utakiona madhara. Sasa shida ndio hiyo. Kitu ukielezewa hivi utaona pengine kinakuvutia, lakini ukija ukiimplement kwenye ground ndio utapata matokeo. Kwa hivyo kwa sisi wakulima tunafurahikia tupate kitu ambacho kitatupatia faida zaidi ya ile mwanzo.
And with the national performance trials underway, then Kenya has been brought one step closer towards adopting genetically modified cotton. And the scientists are optimistic that by the time these trials are over in November, then farmers will have been brought a few more months closer in adopting commercialized genetically modified cotton, which should be available to farmers beginning next year. Zainab Wandati, NTV, in Kinondo, Kwale County.
Business and myself are both done. Have yourself a good night. But guess who's not done? Mark and Gladys, they give more information on the missing plane. Good night.
According to Trans Nzoia County Police Commander Samson Olekine, the plane took off from Kitale airstrip at around 4 p.m. headed for Nairobi.
It then went off radar 60 kilometers to the destination. The commercial Cessna airplane, registration 5YCAC, belonging to a Sachs company, reportedly left Kitale with 10 passengers on board, including the pilot and co-pilot.
Expected time of arrival in Nairobi was 5:20 p.m. but it disappeared before arrival. Its whereabouts are yet to be established.
Now, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority says search and rescue teams from KCAA, KWS and other agencies were deployed immediately but achieved no result by this late evening.
Well, the search has since been paused and will resume at first light tomorrow morning, and police sources from Nyandarua County indicate the missing plane could have crashed west of the Aberdares forest.
With that, we take another break. We'll be back with more in a short while. A war of words is brewing between Kiambu Governor Ferdinand Waitito and his deputy James Nyoro.
Today, Waitito said he was legitimately elected to serve the people of Kiambu, terming his deputy as a pathological liar, devoid of proper academic qualifications.
Yesterday, Nyoro accused Waitito of high-handedness and operating a one-man show in the county.
The previously muted animosity between the Kiambu governor and his deputy is now full-blown, with the two making public declarations against each other. On Tuesday, Governor Ferdinand Waitito, speaking during the World Environment Day in Limuru, said he would not be cowed by his deputy governor, James Nyoro, who criticized his style and competence of leadership.
Hiyo ni maneno ya uongo. Watu wakuja wajione ile ofisi anakaa. Yes, watu wasiseme ati nafanya kazi peke yangu. Deputy Governor ametoka Ulaya on Wednesday. Alikuwa Amerika. Alikuwa Amerika for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks amekuwa Amerika, hakuwa hapa. Sasa ile kazi, kama kuna wageni walikuja kwa ofisi, hawake mgojea mpaka akuje. Wanakuja na tunaendelea.
The governor questioned the former Rockefeller Foundation managing director's academic qualifications and accused him of harboring political ambitions to dislodge him in 2022.
Wale wananinyorosha mimi najua wanataka kusimama kiti ya governor 2022. Sasa mimi niko kwa ofisi, wacha nifanye kazi wakati yangu. Kama wewe utabahatika siku hiyo na wewe ufanye kazi.
Nyoro, an agriculture economist who previously worked as an advisor to the Kenyan government, was categorical about his position as the deputy governor.
I am going nowhere. Don't ask me the next question. Are you resigning? I'm going nowhere. I was not appointed by the governor. I was not appointed by the assembly. I was appointed by the people of Kiambu.
A tough-talking Nyoro alleged that Governor Ferdinand Waititu had crippled the county operations by coercing its officers.
Those people are a frustrated rot. It's only that they cannot talk. Those ECs, they cannot talk because they will be sacked.
Nyoro also accuses Waititu of sidelining him from key decision-making processes in the county. The two leaders have enjoyed a lukewarm relationship over the 6 months. Shidan Huchre, NTV.
Well, youth in Kiambu County took to the streets to protest brutality meted out on traders during raids to actually eradicate illicit liquor by Kiambu County alcohol enforcement officers.
The youth say the enforcement unit has been confiscating the liquor only for the same drinks to appear on the market elsewhere in the county. Ruiru OCPD James Ngetich said the county alcohol enforcement officers have become a problem in the fight against illicit liquor as they do not surrender impounded liquor to the police. NTV's Helen Aura with the story.
The youth who staged demonstrations in Ruiru say the fight against illicit liquor in Kiambu County has taken a dangerous dimension, with enforcers particularly brutal during raids. They want the officers in charge of the enforcement unit investigated.
Yenye imefanya siku ya leo tufanye mgomo ni ile mambo yenye inatendeka hapa Ruiru na ni mambo si halali. Kuna pombe gavana anasema pombe inamwagwa kila siku na pombe yenye inashikwa na huko inakuja kuuzwa huku Ruiru.
The protesters say there are bigger players involved and are now calling for an in-depth investigation into the issue, as many youth are now getting caught in the grip of substance abuse.
Nasikia kuna MCA moja amepeana madawa za kulevya huko Kivuguro. Inauziwa hapo kwa reli hapo.
This is not the first time such a raid has taken place in the area, as the last raid saw a business lady assaulted by the officers claiming she was selling illicit brews.
Tena mimi nauzanga pombe harari, pombe yenye imepewa yenye imepewa barua na national government.
She too wants those who conducted the raid and assaulted many business owners in the area investigated.
Shida moja ambaye tumejaribu kuitatua lakini na county government, lakini hatuoni kama inaenda vizuri. Kwa sababu kawaida pombe ikishikwa inatakana iletwe kwa police station. Na tumejaribu kueleza mkubwa wa enforcement atuletee hizo exhibits hapa kwetu ama wakati wameenda operation, lakini naona tumejaribu kuongea lakini hawakai kama wanaelewa vile tunasema.
Helen Aura, NTV.
Before we take a short break right here on NTV tonight, where Watson Karima is coming up with the sporting news, just a quick reminder about that question of the day. And the question was, what sentence befits those who are found guilty of corruption? We'll be sampling your thoughts right after the sporting action. Stay with us.
the World Cup free, and we are the only licensed broadcaster for the World Cup that will be taking place from the 14th of this month in Russia. But first, Singida United of Tanzania will battle defending champions Gor Mahia in the semi-final of the SportPesa Super Cup. This is after the Tanzanian outfit defeated Kenya's AFC Leopards 4-2 on penalties at the Afraha Stadium in Nakuru. Ingwe had a chance to win the match in regular time, with midfielder Waivon Isuza missing a penalty. With the match tied at 0-0, it was down to the lottery of penalties, and Captain Robinson Kamura and Isuza scored for AFC, but Lukoya Baker and Moses Mboro missed. Ali Kenny was the only Singida player denied by AFC goalkeeper Ezekiel Ogwade, while Shafik Batambuze, Adam Mirati, Daniel Yanga and Sumbi Eliniesia all scored for the 4-2 win. The second semi-final on Thursday will pit Kenya's Kakamega Homeboys and Tanzanian side Simba. The winner of the tournament will pocket 3 million Kenya shillings and play English Premier League side Everton at Goodison Park.
And that happened. But I analyzed the 90 minutes and I'm so happy with my player. I'm very proud of my players.
As I said before, mimi ndo kwanza siku yangu ya kwanza kuwapo katika timu. Nimeweza kutrain jana tu, lakini nashukuru Mungu tumepata matokeo. Tulihitaji kucheza strong kwa sababu tulijua Leopard wanacheza nyumbani, watakuwa na nguvu zaidi kuliko sisi.
The national women's football team Harambee Starlets will have to be at their very best when they face two-time African champions Equatorial Guinea in the first leg of the second round of qualifiers for the 2018 Africa Women's Cup of Nations at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos County. Tomorrow's match will be played under a cloud of controversy, with questions arising over some of the visitors' players and also with the Equatorial Guineans banned from participating in the 2019 World Cup in France.
The Harambee Starlets put in finishing touches in the preparations for the first leg of their two-legged AFCON qualifier against Equatorial Guinea. The squad of 26 has been camping in Machakos for almost 2 weeks under the watchful eye of coach David Owolo. Among the players in camp are Lilian Owor and Teresa Engesha of Vihiga Queens, Janet Bondi of Eldoret Falcons, as well as Osirian ladies defender Anita Adongo. The ladies have worked on polishing their attack by playing friendlies against American college side Lynchburg and Thika Queens from the FKF Premier League. This would be Kenya's second and final round of qualification following their 1-0 aggregate win over the She Cranes of Uganda in the two-legged first round played in April.
You're prepared sufficiently, and this is something that we believe the technical qualities and the ability of the players is sufficient enough in terms of the home advantage that we want to assert.
I urge the fans to come out tomorrow and support us. It's very important. We're starting at home, so we can get the 3 points.
The visitors who arrived in the country Sunday night felt the ground at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos Tuesday afternoon. Due to their position in the FIFA World Women Rankings, Equatorial Guinea were among the 4 teams in Africa given a bye in the first round of the competition alongside Nigeria, Cameroon and South Africa. They were initially banned by CAF from taking part in the 2016 and 2018 editions for allegedly fielding 2 men in the team, but were reinstated in July 2017 at an emergency CAF committee meeting. They are still banned by FIFA.
It's not going to be an easy match, you know that. It's so interested so that the best can win the match.
We prepare a game, but at least it's a difficult game. We know the Kenya is a very good team.
The second leg will be played on Saturday in Malabo. The aggregate winner of this qualifier will bag a ticket to the Women's Cup of Nations in Ghana in November. The tournament also doubles up as the African qualifiers to the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup. Warotekiru, NTV.
Now, 32 teams are set to take part in the FIFA World Cup in Russia. With only 9 days to go, we focus on Group D, which features Argentina, Iceland, Croatia, and Nigeria. Argentina and Nigeria will be strong favorites to advance from the group, but Croatia and Iceland will not be at the tournament to make up the numbers.
Despite featuring football breaks.